Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name's Elaine Matthews, and welcome to another series on Elaine's Extreme Paranormal channel. I hope you'll enjoy tonight's broadcast. I'm sorry to say you're stuck with me solo tonight. However, hopefully I won't tie you up too long, and the information that I have to give you, I hope you'll find useful. We're talking tonight mainly regarding regaining your own space, preventing negative and energies, preventing negative energies from taking you over, and how you can prevent that, how you can remove attachments, that kind of a thing. Now, some of this I'm going to be reading because it was an article that I just recently put on here. So I'm hoping that you will find it useful. So if you see me scrolling down here and there, bear with me. It's simply that I'm just looking up my next item. But first of all, maybe what we should discuss is the type of ghosts that you could be dealing with. A lot of people automatically tend to think that all ghostly activity is demonic, and that's not necessarily so. As a matter of fact, 99.9% of all ghostly activity is not demonic. It's just that you could have a ghost that's pestering you. You could have a noisy ghost. You can have all kinds of things. So I'm going to start describing some of the ghostly activity that you might have other than demonic right now. You could have a ghost that keeps repeating their actions over and over and over, just like a tape recording in a loop, constantly replaying. It'd be at the same time of the day or night. And these ghosts are referred to as residual haunts. They won't acknowledge you. If you try to talk to them, they won't talk to you. They won't even acknowledge your presence. They simply go through the motions of everything that they did just before they died. And that's it. You'll get no communication from them at all. You'll see them. That's it. Then, of course, you have the intelligent haunt. The intelligent haunt will acknowledge you if they feel like it. Certainly, we can't make them. So some people I know think, well, hey, they can make any ghost talk to them, this kind of a thing, or they can make them perform whatever they normally do for them on command. And that's not so, because ghosts do not perform on a schedule. They have no time clock. They will do what they want when they want, and if they're unchecked, quite often they'll do it to whom they want. So this is an area where you've got to be careful. Another kind of ghost is the poltergeist. In German, poltergeist means noisy spirit or noisy ghost. And a poltergeist can be simply noisy and obnoxious. They can also be quite dangerous. The poltergeist is the type that can pick up the furniture and throw it across the room, or pick an item off of the shelf, pitch that across the room, that kind of a thing. So you've got that kind of ghostly activity. And they won't necessarily respond to you if you talk to them. You may get EVPs from them, same as you may get EVPs from the intelligent haunt. But usually the poltergeist, if you get any communication from them at all, it would be on EVP. And of course, by their physical actions. Excuse me. So, okay, when you're dealing with negative energies are something that can really latch on to a person if they allow them. And if they are allowed to latch on to a person, they can really make their life an absolute hell, a living hell. So attachments are something that you've got to be very careful of. If you go on an investigation, if you don't pray for protection before you start, you could be in for serious repercussion, because whatever type of spirit could be at the place that you're investigating could very well follow you home, could very well attach themselves to you. They could attach themselves to your children, to your pets, anything at all. So you got to be very, very careful that you know what you're doing. Don't meddle with it. If you don't know what you're doing, stay clear of it. All too often, we get calls from people who are tampering with the dark side, trying to make communication, trying to talk to a certain person that they think is the spirit in their home. And all they're doing is making things worse, and they're opening a door for worse spirits to come in. Then they wonder why these things are happening. They wonder why they can't get rid of them, and what can they do about it? So hence the paranormal teams get called. But the thing is, if I can't stress it too much, if you don't know what you're doing in dealing with these beings, do not go anywhere near it. Just leave it alone. Now, mind you, if you have a spirit in your home, simply ignoring it is not going to make the situation go away. You have to deal with it. There's no two ways about it. Because if a spirit wants the recognition, they are going to do whatever is necessary to make sure that they get that recognition. And they'll keep on and keep on and keep on until you say, hey, okay, I know you're here. So before we go any further, ladies and gentlemen, please, you'll see on the bottom of right hand of the screen, send us a message. Please do that. You can also go right to the Facebook page, which is Elaine's Paranormal channel, Elaine's Extreme Paranormal channel, excuse me, and you can post a message there. Either way, we can get back to you. But now we're getting back to the type of ghosts again. 99.9%, like I said, are not demonic. Too many people tend to believe that every haunting they have in their home is demonic, and they don't know what to do about it. They don't know how the demon got there. Well, quite often, it's the negative energy that's brought them in. Negative energy, nothing but negative energy, and that will attract them every time. When negative energy gets a hold of you, it will make you miserable. Like I said, it will make your life a living hell, possibly can. Make your entire family miserable, fighting with each other. They can cause marriages to crumble. They can cause families to separate. They can cause all kinds of havoc if you allow them. Excuse me. One of the things that you can successfully do, it takes some effort, but you can do it, is turn these negative energies into positive. And there are certain ways you can do that. And for example, I'm just going to use one example of a living person right now. And it's literally about the same kind of a pattern that you could use with a spirit. But okay, I won't mention any names at all, but in one particular job that I was at, this particular colleague would always come into work, never speak to anybody, never hi, never good morning, never a smile, you know. It's just like, oh, let's get to work and get this day over with, you know, that kind of an attitude. So anyway, I was told that this particular colleague was very, very miserable, always bragging about how much money they and their family had, etc., etc. Well, personally, I couldn't care less. But anyway, I thought, well, maybe this colleague is just being a little bit misunderstood, and me being the new kid on the block, so to speak, decided that I would try to befriend this person, at least be friendly with them, and just see how they reacted. Well, I got the same treatment. Never a smile, never a hello, no, blah, blah, blah about the money, etc., and dirty looks. So this is where we come into the area of standing your ground. One day at coffee break, the two of us happened to be together in the room at the same time. And of course, this particular colleague was not speaking, just gave me dirty looks every time my direction was looked at. So anyway, my coffee break was about to end and I got up to leave. As I did, I addressed this colleague by name. And like I said, I won't mention any names. So anyway, I said, you, blank, as far as I'm concerned, you're your own worst enemy. If you want to sit there and be miserable all the time, that's your problem. Do it. Go for it. You're only making yourself miserable, nobody else. And I said, you know, I have done nothing but try to be nice with you, but try to make friends with you, speak nicely with you, on the possibility that perhaps we just might become friends one of these days. And I said, but it seems very obvious to me that you're just content being miserable all by yourself. Go for it. With that, I get up and turn to walk out. As I was starting to leave, the colleague says to me, "Wait." So I stopped, turned around. I said, "What?" The colleague says, "You know, I never thought of it that way. You're absolutely right. I'm sorry." That broke the ice. It broke the ice. We became friends. Now, I'm not using this as an example, like, say, for, like these companies that have the improvement seminars or improving your attitude, etc., etc. Nothing to do with that. This is simply having to do with standing your ground, reclaiming your space, standing up for yourself. And that's exactly what I did, and that's exactly what happened. No seminar in the world is going to really teach you how to stand up for yourself that way. You've got to be able to do that yourself, and sooner or later you'll find out how to do it. No one, I mean, a person can tell you, can give you some guidelines how to do it, but they can't do it for you. But as it turns out, we became good friends, and that was about the end of that. Now, I mean, in a lot of these big businesses nowadays, they'll have these so-called conferences and very, very boring meetings, and all kinds of nonsense, trying to get their employees to bond together, etc., etc. And it doesn't do any good whatsoever. 9 times out of 10, everybody just laughs at it, and it's boring. Well, another day of getting paid, but we don't work. We just have to sit and listen to this boring meeting. It's about the attitude that most of them have. I know I did. For the greatest majority of them. I'm so glad I'm retired, because I'm away from that stupidity. You know, and when it comes to negative aspects, negative feelings, negative emotions, etc., etc., there's one particular supervisor wasted not only her time, but employees' time by having these silly, stupid, ridiculous private meetings in her office after a person would finish their shift, trying and trying and trying as much as she could to change their personality into her own warped personality. Well, needless to say, it didn't work. And it never will. I mean, when you get a person who kind of snubs their nose at you, picks pets, picks apart everything you say, personally, I don't think that makes a very good supervisor. A good supervisor is one who will work along with people, listen to people, not pick pets. And that's the problem. An awful lot of them do. And they love employees who will rat on another employee and say, "Oh, I caught so-and-so doing such and such." And that's wonderful if you're a pet. But if you're not a pet, well, then you're being petty, according to some. But this is what I mean, standing your ground. If you stand your ground, you don't have to be carrying tales about your other employees, your fellow employees. I mean, after all, you wouldn't want them carrying tales about you. If it's something true and you got a problem, discuss it with them. But this is the thing, too much negativity. The negativity seems to win out that way, and then people go home, they have grudges, they have hard feelings, they don't speak for weeks, sometimes months. Some of them quit speaking entirely. Now, this is the same kind of a scenario that I'm discussing with negative energies that can affect people. All you can do that way is try your darndest to turn the negative into a positive. Work your way around it as best you can. Now, with a negative energy, such as a spirit, you can have a whole different ball game on your hands. It's not an easy thing to deal with a spirit who doesn't want to deal with you. If you're in the case of an intelligent haunting, excuse me, and they can certainly recognize your presence, they can acknowledge you when you talk to them, etc. But if you want them to leave, they might just say, "Oh, no way, just hold on there, Cookie. I'm not going anywhere. I'll get rid of you." And with some of them, that's their attitude. So you got to be careful how you deal with them. Some think, well, maybe if we curse and swear at them and threaten them, that'll get rid of them. No. Don't even go there. Because if you do, you may only anger them to the point that they'll start getting physically violent. So that's really not the best move that way either. But like I said, before you start an investigation, before you start dealing with any of these negative entities, be sure you pray to God for protection in Jesus' name, and be sure to be careful. Pray before, during, and after thank him for his protection. And be sure when you pray for protection that you ask the good Lord to ensure that none of the entities can follow you home, none of them can attach themselves to you, that none of the negative energy can attach to you, your family, your pets, your children, your belongings, anything, which they can do if people aren't careful. So, okay, I'm just going to go on to attachments here. Like I mentioned, pray for yourself for protection. And never allow yourself to be fooled into thinking that nothing can happen to you if you do nothing, because God can and will prevent it, but he has to be asked first. As the old saying goes, why wait for spring? Do it now. So there are prayers for protection and the banning of spiritual or evil attachments. And one for an example is this that I've used. I mean, I don't use these exact words all the time. I mean, when I wrote it, it's just kind of spur of the moment what you're thinking when you're asking for God's protection. But here it is. I'll just read this off for you. It says, Heavenly Father, as I, or we if you're a group. Okay, so I'll just continue with we for the purposes of reading this. As we begin to investigate this place for signs of spiritual or evil entities, we ask your protection for us in preventing any and all spirits or evil entities, demonic or otherwise, from attaching to us, not only before we investigate, but during and afterwards. Allow nothing to follow us, fool, or align itself to us in any way, including our children, our pets, our vehicles, our homes, our property. We ask you to be with us and protect us from all negative forces, spiritual attachment, or evil demonic influence. In the perfect name of Jesus, amen. That's just an example. I mean, to everybody, they may have entirely different prayers that they want to say. And of course, it depends on what religious faith you happen to belong to. You know, some have different prayers for the different type of religion that they adhere to. Now, what attachments are, literally, they're just hangers-on. They're hangers-on of people, places, or things. They're dissatisfied with not having enough havoc to create, and they love to align themselves with unsuspecting people. So they make their intentions known at a later time if it suits them. They won't always make it known they've followed you home. Well, they can sit and wait. They're very patient that way sometimes, and sneaky too. So they may attach to adults. They can follow them home and then attach them to any of the children or the pets when people are least suspecting that any such thing has happened. So unless you've prayed for protection, you are highly vulnerable for such attachments. And another problem is, too, people who are fooling with Ouija boards and things like that, they are asking for trouble as well, especially if they don't pray for protection first. Because you've got a number of people whose hands are on that planchette and they're moving it around, and of course you're hearing the same old jargon. You moved that. No, I didn't. You pushed it. No, I didn't. Yes, you did. I saw you. And it goes all the way around the table, everybody arguing about who pushed the planchette and what letter they wanted it to go to. So you've still got to be careful, because in using the Ouija board, you open up portals that you may not be able to close. And if that happens, you're leaving yourself wide open for bad or negative energies to come in and pester you. So you've got to be pretty vigilant on that. Okay, the signs of attachment of a spirit or entity. When a spirit attaches to you or someone you know, the effects can be devastating. Excuse me. They can cause illness, drastically change behaviors. It can even cause death. They can turn someone you know into a complete stranger. A normally docile person can become immensely angry, superior in strength. And here are some of the most common warning signs. Sudden use of guttermouth talk, including God-mocking and filthy sexual overtones. The persistent tiredness or chronic illnesses, so often present with a person who has an attachment. A sudden drug or alcohol dependence. Sudden ability to lift and toss extremely heavy items or other people. For example, you can pick a person up, throw them across the room when they least expect it. Sudden ability to speak in a language that you were never taught. Sudden verbal, physical, or emotional abuse of people with whom you are normally quite friendly. Extreme mood fluctuations, very negative outlook, depression, unhappiness, hopelessness, could even lead to suicide. The development of new habits, usually bad and very destructive. Sudden intense fear, sudden feeling of dread, and you have no idea why. Sudden hatred of children or pets, when normally you love children or you love animals. So when you're dealing with attachments, prayer and depending on God's intervention to remove them, of course, makes quite a difference. Entity attachments can be removed by literally starving them out or dislodging them directly. Excuse me. Starving them out means identifying what thoughts, emotions, and behaviors they persistently aim to induce and cutting these off, transmuting or replacing them with their positive opposites. And dislodging them directly is more difficult. It can be done yourself, provided you can enter a lucid state of consciousness other than waking, particularly that twilight state in between waking and sleeping. Not only can you see and feel an entity who could be attached to you, but you can take various actions to get it off you. This state is characterized by complete sleep paralysis, the sensation of disembodiment, hovering, vibration, so on. If it's a simple etheric attachment, it should be localized to just one part of your body. You can use a mental imaging technique to shuttle energy back and forth, and that can uproot the entity and make it drop the affected part. Okay, what next do we have in here? We have regaining your personal space. I think would be a good one, because I know we have problems with people who do have a real problem with ghostly activity, and they wonder how they can reclaim their space. So, okay, just for a starter, you hear strange noises in your home. They're often worse at night. Your electrical belongings, such as radio, TV, do weird things. They turn off or on by themselves, changing channels or increasing the volume or decreasing volumes, shutting off completely. The house lights can flicker. Sometimes you'll hear voices of people talking. 9 times out of 10, you'll hear the voices, but you can't discern what they're saying. You're struggling and straining to hear what they're saying, but it's all muffled. You just cannot pick out exactly what the people are saying. You can often see shadows from the corner of your eyes, or see other people, that others cannot. So are you crazy, schizophrenic? What? Maybe, but not always. Sometimes it can be a paranormal event, and when it is, there are certain steps that can be taken to reclaim your space. Moving is not always an option. It sometimes is not the best one either, because the entity could follow you if you just pick up and move. The activity you're experiencing usually has 2 purposes. 1, to warn you or protect you. 2, to take over your space. So it's similar to the rude customer in the store who pushes past you in the lineup. You need to stand up for yourself. Instead of just sheepishly standing there and letting them go on by and abusing you like that. Excuse me, but the end of this line is right back there. And literally, that's what you have to do when you get people like that. And believe me, it seems that you're getting like that more and more every day. It's the same with the ghostly presence. He or she needs to be shown the end of the line when you hold on to your space. Spirits are often willing to leave, simply after being acknowledged and encouraged to cross over. But sometimes you'll encounter spirits who are afraid to leave. They love the place, or they're somehow attracted to you or to the place, period. You might be wondering how or why a spirit could be attracted to you personally. He or she could be a relative or a close friend wanting to make contact with you for some reason. There could be impending danger they wish to warn you about. They could also be present just to keep you company if you're alone. This is very often true with pets, despite the long-lived rumor that pets don't have souls. It has long ago been proven they do. And in fact, I have a number of my pets, bless their little hearts, deceased, They come up on the bed, and my previous dog, the dog I have now is Chewbacca, but my previous dog was Muttley, and I have seen him in here several times, just running through. Looks very happy. So strange as it might sound, some spirits will linger because they are totally unaware they have passed from this life to the spirit world, and to them, you are the intruder in their space. Well, it's often intensified whenever the new owner of the dwelling begins to renovate the home or the property in which it stands. So let's now assume that I'm your ghost. Just like if I were to invade your home, start ripping things out, adding this and that, so and so, well, you would naturally confront me, and most likely it would be with well-deserved anger. But I'm a stubborn ghost, and I say, this is my home. Get out. So now what do? Well, I need to be encouraged to leave you in peace. In life, I was simply an average person working for my living. I paid for my home, loved it, and I don't want anyone messing around with it. Then you moved in. Why have you invaded my property? A paranormal investigator may be necessary to encourage me to leave, or a team of investigators. But I don't want to. You're the invader in my house, and I want you out. If you refuse to get out, I'll become pretty darned angry. Hence, I'm going to haunt you. The team will perform the investigation, do the house cleansing by smudging and often prayers of protection. But in life, okay, I was a God-fearing person. When I hear those prayers, I begin to think of my family. Where are they now, and why am I here all by myself in this house? And since Sage is well known to be repulsive to spirits, I decided I need help to find out what's really going on. A psychic medium who can understand me and what I'm saying, I try to talk loudly, but often people hear nothing, and so they try to record my voice. When the recorder does succeed in picking up my voice in an EVP, or electronic voice phenomena, my voice is not loud, but it's often heard in a whisper. It could even be a voice that sounds different from my own. So, okay, I'm still this ghost, so what I'm asking you is to talk to me kindly. I'd like to treat others kindly, so don't belittle or threaten me. And I'm not a child or a danger to anyone. I'm just a spirit looking for help to go to be with my loved ones. Don't curse at me. Don't scream and shout. I can hear you just fine if you speak to me normally. An awful lot of people tend to think that when they're talking to a ghost, they've got to scream and holler and make their voices so darned loud that it just gets to be a little ridiculous. The strange-looking things that the team have in their hands. Okay, so I'm the ghost, and I'm wondering, okay, what are these gizmos? You know, what are they for? So, okay, assuming I'm your ghost, tell me what these objects are so I understand what they are. You can tell me that it's safe for me to touch something, but how do I know you're telling me the truth? After all, you want me out. So show me how the gadgets work so I can understand, not be afraid to touch them, and let you know I'm here and understand you. Tell me about the light. Show me how to go through it, pass on to the other realm. So much for the above scenario. So I've successfully crossed over. The new owners of the house are happy, and their home's now their own. They have regained their space. They stood their ground. Now let's assume that I'm a really stubborn ghost. Oh, I'm miserable. You're in my space. I hate you. I hate your children. I hate your pets. Get out before I start really getting mad and throw things at you. Some things that could really harm, if not kill you. I'll haunt you day and night. I'll shout right into your ears and scare you into leaving. I'll pinch and slap you. I don't want you here, and I will create so much noise and trouble for you, you'll leave me alone in my house. You'll run for your very life. I'm a poltergeist. A noisy, mischievous spirit, and I can turn malevolent if I don't get my own way. And that's very common with poltergeists. So, carrying on as the poltergeist, I'm saying, I hate you, so you'd better be afraid of me. After all, I feed off your fear. Your fear makes me all the stronger. You don't dare just ignore me, because I'll make your life a living hell if you try to. I need attention. In fact, I demand it. So let's assume you give me that attention and you're afraid of me. My power increases as your fear grows. I get stronger and stronger, and since I want you out of my home, I might even kill you if I feel it in the mood, but let's start with throwing things at you first. You start screaming and hollering at me, I'll behave even worse. Try cursing at me, oh, I'll really start throwing things, such as furniture. I might even pick just you out of the entire family and really pester you. Everyone else will think you're crazy. In fact, I might pick you up and throw you right across the room. Forget the furniture. I know it sounds funny, but it's happened. There are so many scenes I could create here, but the above are merely examples, although true examples. I grew up with ghostly activity, and I know for myself the difference between the fear of them and what they can do if they're provoked. So let's get to the point of taking the next step after the investigation, and you still find the problems are persisting. Firstly, not every spirit will leave just because an investigative team enters the scene. If you fear their presence too much, they might love to linger. The presence of an investigator or a team of them could also anger the spirit. So how do you deal with it? You reclaim your space, and it is easier than it sounds. Myself, being a Christian, I rely on prayer to God in Jesus' name. He does the work of releasing, banishing, etc. He merely uses me as a tool when I embark on investigations. The homeowner also has some responsibility in reclaiming his or her space after our work is done. If spiritual activity is still felt to be present, try smudging the entire home and the people and pets living in it. Pray, let God take over. Talk to the entity. If I were a ghost, I would always refer to them as a he. If a ghost, I always refer to them as a he or a she because they were once living human beings just like we are. Now, if there's a demon present, considering they were never human, those I refer to as it. Tell them your home is your space now. Tell them that there is no need for them to remain. They need to leave. Okay, what's going on here? Somebody stole my page. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. Anyway, quite often if you read certain Bible passages, they hate Bible passages if they're demons especially. They do not like it. If someone wants to bring a Ouija board into your home, do not allow them to even bring it inside. Let negative thoughts of the previous haunting, get rid of them. Keep your mindset as positive as possible. Negative energies detest positive thoughts and actions. And the more you think on the negative, the more you allow the negative to take over, the least are the chances of you getting the positive to come in. You got to see what you can do about turning the negative around, allowing the positive in, and then watch how things will change. And I know it sounds a lot easier said than done, especially if you're depressed or you're frustrated or you're looking for work, you can't find it, all that kind of a thing. I know that it's easier said than done. I understand, been there, did that. Okay, so quite often people will use sage when they smudge the house. And using sage is an old Indian method, native North American method, and it works. A lot of people use blessed salt or blessed oil. Roman Catholics use what they call holy water and sometimes oil, I believe. So there are so many different ways of getting rid of these particular entities, but do bear in mind that you have to let God do the work. You can't take credit for it yourself. It's Him that does the work. So, okay, I think hopefully we've covered pretty well everything on the topic. So I think what I'm going to do, because I'm solo, I don't want to bore you too much. I'm going to sign off for now. Wish you all a very good night. And next week we have, if I'm not mistaken, next week we have Dino Ewelt. And he should be very interesting to listen to. I know he did an interview with me one time a little while back, and he was quite interesting to listen to, and I think we will enjoy having him on the show for sure. So, okay, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so very much for coming into Elaine's Extreme Paranormal channel. And I hope you have a great weekend, and I hope to see you again next week. You take care. Bye for now. God bless.